Dzień dobry Państwu.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very glad to welcome you at today's presentation dedicated to a discussion of the forecasts for 2025, which were published yesterday by the company. And the forecasts will be commented on and presented by Mr. Dariusz Mańko, President of the Management Board, by Mr. Roman Przybylski, Vice President of the Management Board, and Mr. Rafał Warpechowski, Management Board Member and CFO. And after the presentation part, you will be able to ask questions via our chat. The presentation can be found on the company's website, Investor Relations company, on the Warsaw Stock Exchange annual forecast. There you will find the communication and the annexes in the form of a presentation, and the President, Mr. Mańko, will present the first part. Ladies and gentlemen, hello, good morning, and this is the final meeting of 2024. In 2024, well, for me, it's a very special opportunity. It's a very special meeting. As you have learned from the news, I have informed the Supervisory Board in December, during the last session of the board, that I would not run for Management Board member of Group for the next term of office. So it is a very particular period for me, and it's a very special time for me. Many years, ladies and gentlemen, many years, because 2025 will have marked 20 years of my tenure as president. So I believe that the share price really reflects this work in the best possible way. But I'm not going to elaborate on all this, because there will come a time for saying goodbye. And I believe that we shall meet. We shall meet personally at the conference following the first quarter of next year, and we'll be able to shake hands. I'll be very glad to see you there directly in person. I won't be talking to cameras there. But just briefly now, to perhaps explain the background for this decision. When I started thinking about the strategy for the development of Group, what would be in store for it, and how Group should develop for the years to come, let's say for 10 years, I always look at the development of the group through a vision. And this vision may not be shorter than some 10 years, because then the individual years, may not just reach the target. So you always have to set yourself a goal which is a bit farther away. So when we started thinking about how the group should evolve, how it should change, well, I came to the conclusion that, I thought, would I still have the strength? Would I still have the energy? Would I still have the enthusiasm to lead this company up to the year 2035, to invite, to embark on the project a group of managers, of my fellow workers, of colleagues, and tell them, yes, I will be your boss. I will be the face behind this project. I will be the face to this project and implement it. And to say the same to the shareholders, to you, ladies and gentlemen, I answered this question myself, and I said, no, I won't have this strength. I won't be getting any younger as the years go by, and I would not like to be a weak link in this project. I would not like to be a person failing to carry this project through. Someone coming back, coming to work to a bit later and not so willing to work hard and to go on business trips. And what we have done over these 20 years, this has really cost us a lot of effort and hard work. This has cost us a lot of also private life. And this has been a period of very intense work, but I had a lot of strength. There was no problem starting at 6 a.m. and ending the day at 8 p.m. and then boarding a plane on the following day at 7 a.m. and going somewhere to work. It wasn't a problem for me, and I was able to set this pace for me and to set the similar pace for my fellow workers, for my co-workers, for colleagues. But now, answering this question I had posed myself, I answered it by saying, no, I don't have this strength anymore, I don't have this energy for the coming years, so why should I embark on a project of building a new strategy, of building a Kente group, which in my vision and in our joint shared vision of our co-workers will be a European group, a group of European importance, at least if not international in its importance, a very large group in the field of its current activity. And I do believe in this strongly, and I will do everything I can to make sure that that Roman Pruski already appointed by resolution of the supervisory board, that he may implement this strategy together with colleagues remaining in his team who will be supporting him, and I'm sure they will be building the value of this group further, and you will be happy. I am sure of that. And after the talks of the supervisory board, we decided that I would stay as a consultant to the management board. I would like to continue to be tied to the company. Perhaps I will remain the biggest individual shareholder of the Kente Group. I do not intend to sell shares. I continue to believe in this project, and I do believe that the share price will keep growing even more than it has been the case over my term of office, that is over the last 19, well, in a while, 20 years of work, so over my whole tenure, over all the terms. So I'm not saying goodbye. I'm only ceasing to be president, but I'm going to say goodbye in May after the shareholders meeting. But as a shareholder, as a consultant, as someone who looks after and to whom the company is dear, please believe me, these are not just empty words. I have spent most of my best period of my life with the Kente Group in it, and I do owe a lot to the group. But also, I believe that the group owes a lot to me, because I have left a bit of my health in it, so I will definitely not remain indifferent to what will be happening to the company. Well, as long as I can, my humble self, as long as I can continue to support the strategic project for the years to come, which I'm available for. I'm available to the management board, to the shareholders, and to the supervisory board in this respect. So that's that, as far as I'm concerned. Enough of me. Just to joke a bit, but what have we managed to do over the year, over 2024? You saw the quarterly results, yesterday's information, and the quarter, well, it could not have been really exceptional or amazing, because the market, as it is, you perfectly know that this environment is very difficult, especially in industry. So what we have managed to achieve, we managed to repeat the results for 2023, for the same quarter in 2023, and we are happy to see that, because at the end of the day, this will translate into an excellent result in 2024. So 5% up of EBITDA year on year. I believe that this, if you look at your portfolios, and you definitely have industrial companies in there, obviously, so it would be hard to find companies that have managed to cope in such a difficult year, and which did not have to adjust their forecast downwards, or which would not show performance that would be lower compared to the previous year. So I repeat, we believe this to be excellent performance under the conditions we've had, and we should only hope that, these conditions are already weak, and sufficiently weak to prevent them from getting any worse. I believe that the mood that will appear in next year in Europe will be buoyant, and that we will be able to breathe a sigh of relief and not to make any nervous moves under nervous circumstances. Well, what makes us glad, ladies and gentlemen, is the quantitative sales volume. Look at also the use of our production capacities. This has always been our strength. And another important thing in 2024 is the acquisition of Zelt Opole, an excellent company which gives us a platform to build upon, to build another segment upon. And I'm extremely glad to see this project, because it is a bit, a kind of a leaving thing for me. But it is an excellent acquisition of an excellent company, which which is situated in an excellent branch of the economy, which, in our opinion, will be growing, consuming aluminium. So, essentially, meeting all the characteristics which we needed to develop the capital group. And conclusion, and signing of this contract and acquiring of this company, I treat this as a genuinely big personal success also, because I am convinced that this may be one of the most rapidly expanding businesses of the group in the future. Of course, 100% dividend, we've already got used to this. However, we did not have any capital expenditures or needs which would have forced us to pay a smaller amount. So I guess in 2024 it compensated for the not entirely great news that will come for the from capital markets for you. So let's continue, Michał. Now, very briefly on. Okay, by the way, there's one more thing I wanted to say, very important thing I wanted to tell you. The absence of a strategy in December, I obviously, it's on me, okay? I'm to blame, and all critical remarks, please give them to me. And I told you that we'd present the strategy by the end of the year. I said it a couple of times, and indeed, I have to actually repent. We're not going to show this strategy, and I am to blame. The blame is on me, because the strategy is basically ready. We worked on it, and Roman Przybylski could already, as the future president, he would be able to present it today. But I asked the supervisory board and my fellow management board members to postpone this presentation of the strategy by a couple of months. Why? Well, because I believe that it should not be the case that the president is presenting a strategy, but he won't be there 5 months from now. This is wrong and inappropriate, in my opinion. The strategy should be uttered from the mouth of someone who will be actually implementing the strategy and who will take full responsibility for it. I obviously agree with this strategy, but it is a question of, changing the person in the president's seat, and I believe that it's better for the company, it's better for all of you, the shareholders, if you hear about the strategy a couple of months from now from the new president. And I believe that it will even be earlier than the official handing over of power or authority during the sending over will be during the general shareholders meeting in May, but we will have this probably earlier than that, and I guess we will agree and we'll present it together with the results for the first quarter. So this will probably happen in April rather than May. So once again, sorry, I'm not justifying myself and I'm not excusing myself in a way, but I ask for this delay due to my decision, which I kind of, maybe I waited too long because I lived and breathed with this decision, but you understand, it's confidential information, so I was not supposed to talk about my quandaries, about my considerations. So the supervisory board obtained this information in December, and this also made things slightly more complicated in terms of communication of the strategy in 2024. Nevertheless, the strategy we are implementing currently is a strategy that is in force until 2025. So from the formal point of view, we continue to be at a point of implementing the strategy for 2021 to 2025. And so some important milestones we managed to achieve, and the important steps we managed to take. Well, even not looking at the screen, even not reading what's in the presentation, because you can read it yourselves. What I believe to be important is all certain changes that have occurred over the last 5 years in the extruded product segment. This change, I would call it, above all, a change whereby we ceased fearing any contracts, any talks, any negotiations. We managed to build a team proceeding to implement contracts with the largest groups in automotive. It has become a certain rule of thumb that we are able to do. We can do it. On top of that, the technological production team. I don't even have to tell you that that recently 2 new presses were put into operation. This is kind of our daily bread. This is no longer a feat. In the past, you could say, well, it's a moment also for sharing some memories, so I will share some recollections. But in the old days, even putting a press up, this would involve a whole lot of people, errors, problems, and nervousness. But now it all went smoothly, and we had virtually not even the slightest problem to implement this investment task. So this is definitely an utterly cutting-edge aluminum processing plant in Europe, whose production quality and technology exceeds and surpasses a lot of competitors in Europe. And I'm just leaving this for your consideration, because even if if the situation is less buoyant on the market, please believe me, with this technology, well, there are even bigger players, obviously, than us, who have excellent quality and technology. However, we are definitely in the top tier, and so I do not fear anything, because we need to make use of this advantage, and we'll definitely cope and fill the capacities that are there to fill. The aluminium system segment is above all a leader, and let me repeat this, a leader in aluminium systems. This would have been unimaginable in the past. When we started selling aluminium systems, the competition would actually laugh at me. They laughed at me during one conference that I even dared to think that we would be selling aluminium systems, that we would invent. And currently, 20 years have passed. In the old days, the president was of the current Aluprof was so it's even 25 years, okay. But we really did read the system, and now we could say that the undisputable leader in the Polish market, it's us. Excellent products, excellent solutions, both for large commercial buildings and for residential single-family homes, and on top of that, fireproof glass and fire-resistant glass. And indeed, it is a company that follows the trend, and sometimes it's even a trendsetter and anticipates certain ideas that appear later in Europe. So with this kind of product, with this kind of a team, one should only root for this, that this Aluprof, which is very well known in Poland and which is the leader, that this Aluprof be at the same time, equally well known a couple of years from now in Europe, that every architect should know what Aluprof is, and anyone who develops an interest in building anything, that they know that they can use Aluprof products. This is a challenge, but again, I repeat, the cutting-edge nature of the products and technologies allows Aluprof to occupy an adequate position in Europe in the coming years. And flexible packaging segment, well, it has had a very hard 5-year period, and we have had trouble in terms of traditional packaging, and you can see on shop shelves how packaging has changed. I remember 12-color multi-layer packaging, and we came to a situation where we have something wrapped in ordinary film with just some small print, or so even paper without any print, or even the name of sometimes just the name of the company. So we had to undergo this transformation, and I don't bear any grudge here, and nor do my co-workers from the from the respective segment, from the packaging segment. Well, we must not produce waste that is non-biodegradable. We must not flood our planet with all this waste. So it is an excellent trend, and we have found ourselves in it. We have managed to defend our position, and today we actually produce less refined packaging, maybe, but less sophisticated packaging, but definitely packaging that meets the requirements and that is environmentally friendly. And we have no concerns really here. And the toughest period in which this spectre appeared of this environmental protection, doing away with all packaging that we wouldn't know how we would package or whether we would package at all, but that we would not be allowed to print, to use this material that would basically lead our production to be shut down. Well, this fortunately did not happen, and the evaluation was reasonable towards basically biodegradable and processable recyclable materials. So this is a good direction, and I believe that we have made it. And here we bow before the team, the workers, the flexible packaging segment, because they managed to find themselves in this segment. They managed to find the solutions and change its production, and they managed to work very strongly on the technology, and now the technology meets the requirements. So this is a big plus. And another big advantage is BOPP, that is the production of film. And here, well, 2 new machines, 2 new devices. This is totally new in our organization, which basically brought a return on investment very fast and recontributed to EBITDA in the record years, where we also had a record dividend paid to shareholders. And we have to say that the ability to manage a similar investment by managers in the flexible packaging segment, well, this is 10 out of 10, really. They really are great at it, putting up the manufacturing shop and setting up these devices, which are very precise. These are precision devices, and in the right time, and generating this EBITDA, assuring a return in just a couple of years. Well, chapeau bas, we bow before them, and I'm very happy with this. I believe that this 5-year period has been very successful in these conditions for the flexible packaging segment. Now, the financials. I would like to say, well, let us have a similar 5-year period every time. We could wish for it. If someone planned something 5 years ago, and then after 5 years shows that they will have sales as they assumed, but that they will deliver 46 million EBITDA more, or 27 million of net profit, well, then it's hard to talk about a coincidence. It's more about precision and doing a good job, simply. And this, yes, indeed, a year before the plan. So the whole team worked properly, we have to say, and the plans and assumptions had been appropriate. So in no way did we actually deceive you declaring something 5 years ago, because we did deliver on that. So what else? In terms of the 5-year period, dividend, definitely. The dividend was very big. If you look at it, the payment was very large, and I believe that this represents a lot of increase for shareholders, 145%. Well, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine a better investment of one's funds. Well, obviously, there are some companies that work on a kind of deep basis, not a smooth base. They actually leap up and achieve some amazing results in 1 or 2 years, and it happens. They maybe have some products that become smash hits on the market, and they have a relatively short life cycle, and once they launch, they very often bring a huge increase in value, and we also had some products that appeared during the pandemic. But in terms of sustainable long-term increase of the value of the company, of the group, Kente Group is, I believe, an excellent asset for you. An asset which will be yielding equally good results equally good profits in the future. So I do encourage you to continue to be our shareholders, because this is definitely a platform to build huge value in the future. Thank you. Okay, we have a bit of a technical issue here. Right, in a while I will give the floor to my colleague here, who will present the individual segments and what has been going on there. But I would just like to comment on this chart. And I would like to kind of distance myself from, but you can't distance yourself from the GDP of the main economies in Europe, obviously, because that's economics. You have to rely on some macroeconomic data. We also relied on those data building the budget, and we are also relying on this building the strategy. However, please bear in mind one very important aspect, namely that we, as Poles, we were chasing Europe for the last 25 years, and everything that was happening here was being done at a tremendously fast pace. And we were investing in cutting-edge machinery, cutting-edge technology. And please bear in mind that this Europe is open, and it's our home that we all share, and I'm very glad to see this, and we can all use it. And the demand for our products in Europe is way higher than that in Poland. So we're talking about markets which for us are a promised land, and we need to make use of these markets, and we are able to make use of those markets. We have excellent workers, we have excellent technology, excellent machines, and excellent products. So there are no obstacles, there's nothing hinders Kente Group from developing further. And I'm not making light of this, but regardless of the GDP figure, because if we had, I don't know, 40% market share in Germany today, and 60 in Austria, and 30 in France, I would tell you, yes, GDP is very important for us, because unfortunately we are just so big now that this GDP will have an impact on us. But today I'm seeing more of an opportunity in the problems our competitors are facing in Western Europe. Maybe they don't have sufficiently good technology or equipment, sometimes not sufficiently motivated employees, maybe the incentives are not sufficiently high. So this really opens the door for us, and this may allow Kente Group to be a very large aluminium group in Europe. I truly believe this, and I will be encouraging my co-workers definitely to make use of this opportunity and to use this moment, since Europe has to open up to our products and needs to look at these products closely and choose modern solutions. It must not be conservative in what it is doing now. So I believe that's not, as far as I'm concerned, and now I shall give the floor to my colleague here, who will give you a couple of details about the budget for the individual segments. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Now, by way of introduction, just 2 comments from me. I can say I am honored by the appointment the President has mentioned. Just as the President has mentioned, we have been talking for months on the strategy and working on it. And actually what we are going to show you is a result of our joint work. We actually are totally confident of, and we believe in it. And as far as the December decision of Mr. President is concerned, it is obviously quite right to publish the strategy slightly later, because maybe some accents, some emphases, some nuances will be distributed differently, because I will be the person taking responsibility for its implementation at the end of the day. So I just wanted to assure you that I have this idea, that I have this will, and I have this energy for this at least 10-year project too. And I am hoping for this support declared by Mr. President. We have been working together for a year now. It has been an amazing collaboration also with the other board members. So I believe that we will be showing you at the start of next year something interesting, something we all subscribe to, and something I will take. I'm already taking, I can say today, full responsibility for. As far as the forecasts for 2025 are concerned and the budget for 2025 are concerned, unfortunately, we are moving in quite a difficult market environment in Europe today. The European economy is generally speaking in stagnation, to put it lightly. Services a bit better. Industry, unfortunately, is doing poorly, and it looks different in different sectors. But we believe that the coming year should be better for a number of reasons. So this is the 100%, European Central Bank aspect, but we are already having some volatility probably at the start of next year. So the inauguration of the new U.S. president. So there will be some emotion there, some excitement, but everything later than that should contribute to stability, and we shall come back to growth. It will probably be different segments of the market. Construction industry, well, most of our segments are heavily exposed to that. We are very much optimistic. We see the forecasts are stable with a possibility of growth. And this results from the fact that the repair and renovation market should relaunch. So again, these percentage rates, which are going to be lowered by the European Central Bank, as I said, and we are only waiting for a stimulus for this to happen, and this should actually be basically good for the extruded product segment as well as for the aluminium system segment, and for the sun protection system segment, which we're already creating, which we are showing, which we're going to show as a separate segment next year. So these sectors, such as automotive, these market segments such as automotive, or the machinery and electrotechnical industry, due to the stagnation in European industry, have this prospect which is slightly worse, unfortunately, and we have to put up with it. But fortunately, we have these ideas and we have these initiatives, as the President has mentioned. We have been moving quite efficiently in this market and strongly, so we should not be feeling this tremendously hard. For the sun protection system segment, and for the flexible packaging segment, we see the prospects are stable, and definitely we shall continue these trends for monostructures and smaller amount of printing and more recycling, and we believe that we are well prepared for this, so we should be moving along with the market and aligned with it. So looking now at the segments in detail, starting from the extruded product segment. So we have in the investment result from the last 5-year period, we have new production capacities which we simply have to fill. And our whole strategy over the past couple of years and already now is focused on that, on filling these capacities. And next year we are predicting an increase from 93 to nearly 100,000 tons. This is about 7%, and in terms of value also nearly 8%. And this might sound ambitious in the context of the difficult market, but we have this preparation, we have the structures, and we should also note that we will generate some of this growth as part of internal sales due to synergies with the sun protection system segment of the aluminium system segment. Because increases in this business will also translate into increases in purchases of the extruded product segment and redirecting deliveries from other suppliers, for instance, in terms of the acquired company CELT, the company we acquired this year. We're envisaging slightly faster growth domestically than in export, and this results mainly from these internal synergies within the group. We have envisaged in the budget some recovery investments, and these investments are actually associated with the scale of the business in terms of EPS. It's basically tooling, and this is a large part of these investments. We are investing in fire protection and in water management and energy efficiency. And you see that we have a very negligible increase in employment. This results from the development investments in new presses handed over for operation in the past year. In terms of aluminum systems segment, we envisage dynamics of 6% in next year's budget, with the emphases distributed. Well, faster should be the growth in export than domestically, and this results from the strong position on the domestic market and from the huge potential we have mentioned just a while ago in export. We are building structures we've been developing there for years. So basically, we have the conviction that we can grow even faster. And basically, this project should achieve a high return. It has a high EBITDA margin in this segment, and we want to fight to keep this profitability at a similar level. We don't want to develop at the expense of profitability in this segment. Development investment, this is mainly the second stage of the new plan in Złotów, and also investments in the machine stock and automation, robotization, so increasing efficiency, improving the performance of the segment. And this is also related to employment, the new plant, and building and some new structures in terms of development in European markets, and the fire-resistant glass already mentioned today. The new sun protection system segment, created on the basis of the part of that, so Aluprof and Selt, the newly acquired company. Here the dynamics is very high, but this results from the fact that the next year we will be showing and consolidating Selt from the whole year, and in 2024, so in the current year, this was only done for 4 months. So comparing apples to apples, if we compare it year on year, Selt alone, we are envisaging an increase by around 17% next year. In terms of Aluprof Opole, this is an increase similar as in Romanian Aluprof in the aluminum system segment. So this gives you the results you can see here. Again, high profitability, and we are assuming next year an improvement in profitability, which basically results mainly from our more efficient use of our production capacities. In terms of Selt, on the other hand, we have machines and space allowing us to grow without the need to incur any particular capital expenditures, and we shall be making use of this effectively. And we have also started using synergies in other areas: logistics, purchasing, the first steps in export sales, integration of structures. So here the synergies in terms of integrating Selt in the group are contributing to an improvement in profitability, and they should constitute the basis for an excellent first year of the newly created segment. Investments are negligible in here, and employment has to increase due to the planned volume increase and due to the supplementation of employment resulting from certain gaps and shortages we had in the company acquired this year. Flexible packaging segment, by far the leader in the Polish market. The segment is working on a high rate of filled production capacities, and we shall be keeping this position. We are planning an increase in line with the market growth. We are planning to go more into this packaging, which is more recyclable, and here a priority is maintaining high profitability, which this segment, against the background of the competition, is achieving. And we need some money for investments, for recovery investments for this, but we would like to draw your attention to the fact that these investments have been very low over the last couple of years, so we should be spending more money on this, but on average this is staying below depreciation, so these replacement investments are staying below this, and so replacement investments are something we should be doing. And now employment aligned with the production increases and replacing some staff shortages, but yes, these are not great figures. These are big figures in this sense. In terms of ESG, so as not to elaborate on this, I'm not going to go into this in much detail, but as you see, this boils down to the fact that in nearly all cases, we have been delivering on the assumptions underlying the strategy, which is still supposed to be enforced, at least formally, until 2025. We are on track to achieve them this year already, and in terms of each of the ESGs, we are assuming that some of them were even increased, these aims, so it's all going in line with the plan, absolutely, and with the forecast. Now, in terms of the financial forecast, I shall give the floor to the CFO, Rafał Warpałowski. Thank you. So, but the speaker is not speaking to microphone. Yes. Thank you. Good morning. About macroeconomic assumptions, as you see, the situation is so mutable that even after the first weeks we see, because these assumptions were adopted in October, there are some differences, but these are differences that have no impact on the results we are presenting. So we can depreciation of the zloty, of the Polish zloty vis-a-vis other currencies. So this actually is advantageous with regard to the euro, and less so in the case of the US dollar. But these two impacts actually set each other off, and raw materials are actually close, and the recent GDP forecast for the country was slightly higher inflation. So the ambitious operational plans that we had adopted, there will continue to be even more of a challenge. Coming to the figures, actually, consolidated results, as the President has said, planned performance this year is a very sound result, and this is a very demanding base for the budget. Nevertheless, the budget for 2025 is definitely ambitious, and all segments are increasing the scale of their activity. This is obviously an effect of SELT, the company already mentioned by the previous speakers. And in any case, each segment, even in comparable conditions, is improving results vis-a-vis the actually still ambitious base. So EBITDA 15%, exceeding the strategic goal for the next year, as I mentioned in each of these segments. Now, as far as the financial expenditures are concerned, we have an increase here. Our debt level, as you remember, this was around 1.1 billion, and at the end of this year and next year, this will be around 1.5 billion zlotys. So this increase in interest rate in financial expenditures is actually about the increase in interest rates on debt. And it's worth mentioning, because we have to tell you this, development investments have been completed, and most of them happen in 2023 and 2024. Hence, in 2025, we won't have this positive influence of recognizing deferred tax in relation to investments implemented in zones, and this impact will be reduced and will be around 15 million zlotys. Already in 2024, it was around 36 million zlotys still. So we could say that the tax burden will be around 20 million higher, only due to this. Nevertheless, net profit will still exceed 540 million zlotys and exceed by 6% the strategic assumptions for this year. And so, cost-wise, we are showing two columns here, precisely to ensure comparability and to make it easier to analyze the data. The change column with the asterisk is the change without taking into account the effect of covering SELT with the area of consolidation, and here we can see that the trend we'll be having here is typical, and it covers the volumes and the macro assumptions in terms of raw materials. It's worth mentioning energy, and this year we are assuming a slight decrease in the cost of energy in the comparative picture, because despite the volume increase, the purchase volume increase, we will manage, we believe, to purchase energy at slightly lower prices. The net effect is 2% in cost reduction, third-party services, and we are used to this inflation increase or the increase related to labor cost, and we are planning a number of initiatives here which will reduce this increase slightly, hence the 4% and not, say, 5% of inflation or 8% of inflation of the minimum salary, and minimum taxes and fees minus 6%. This is about the absence of the cost, the one-off costs related to the purchase of SELT. As you remember, there was 4 million of tax on civil law transactions, and also benefits. So this is also a result of what's happening in employment. and the salary increases from last year, and the pool we assumed to an increase in remuneration resulting from the market environment, from the context. And this is what the situation is like. We all see what it's like here. So that's that in terms of costs. In terms of liquidity, as I have mentioned, the safe level of debt, even from 1.6 at the end of next year, debt to EBITDA will go down to 1.5, and with a similar debt level around 1.5 billion, we are not planning any substantial changes in the currency structure of debt, so it's around 1/5 is euro, which constitutes a certain natural hedging vis-à-vis our economic exposure. And we have a substantial part of loans which is long-term, as at the end of this year. As you know from the last two pieces of news in terms of the operational credit facilities, they have been extended with a maturity period of 2 years. So from this point of view, our situation is very stable indeed. And as far as the lower chart, the bottom chart is concerned, we are capable of generating nearly 900 million of inflow from revenue from operational activities, and there is no significant change in working capital with these macroeconomic assumptions, and this will allow us to pay for the investment program. This will allow us to pay the dividend, assumed the budget of 85% of net profit for the year 2024, and to pay the interest, and this will essentially not lead to an increase in debt. So that's it, as far as I'm concerned. Just 2 words of summary comment. This what results from the financials. We believe that the environment won't give us a situation which would favor us, which would give us a preferential situation. So this will be a huge challenge, but relying on the group synergies and relying on the integration of the company CELT, which is a kind of seed to build the fourth segment of the group upon, undoubtedly we will consolidate our financial position, and we also guarantee and we assume keeping the dividend policy stable at the same level. And apart from these short-term turbulences which we have seen in 2024, which we are going maybe to see at the start of 2025, we believe that for all operational segments of the group, these long-term perspectives for growth are very favorable indeed. Thank you. Thank you very much, and we shall pass to the Q&A session. The first question is about CELT and its future. Is it true that CELT is supposed to merge with Aluprof, and under what name will it operate as the new entity? Well, we are in the process of integration, and we have a whole program open, and indeed, integration of such an organism to the group involves a whole lot of various processes and projects, and will definitely last a couple of months, big months. And definitely it is our aim to create a coherent segment of sun protection systems, and we will operate under Aluprof and under CELT, the two brands. But in the long-term perspective, the solutions will be developed as part of this project. And various options are still possible, both formally and business-wise. So let's not decide at this moment. But one coherent and merged segment will definitely be established at some point. Just to make it clear, Aluprof is Aluprof Bielsko-Biała and Aluprof Opole. So we're talking about CELT Opole and Aluprof Opole. So we're talking about Aluprof manufacturing and distributing and selling shutters in Opole, external shutters in blinds. So this is something that covers the window, which you can make a gate out of, and as you know, a door. And the CELT, on the other hand, is products such as pergolas and various screens and awnings, and so this is about various protection products, and so there are a couple of them in Opole, and from CELT, excellent facilities, and which are excellently equipped, cutting-edge plants, and so our vision is to make sure that this Opole should be well known across Europe as a distributor, as a manufacturer, as a vendor of such products. And I believe that this, indeed, the location of Opole and what we have available now, this should be a springboard to make a presence in Europe with these products, especially since we have less concentrated competition in the case of Aluprof, of this core business of Aluprof, that is the selling of systems, of facades and windows and doors. We have a competition which is strongly consolidated and strong. It is slightly more difficult in the European market. It's definitely more difficult to move in the European market compared to the Selt and Aluprof Opole products. So we want to kind of make stir things up in Europe, to put it bluntly. Now, the predicted consolidated EBITDA in 2024 is supposed to be 990 million zlotys. But the simple sum of the segments, well, it gives a 28 million higher amount. Where does the difference come from? Well, yes, the difference is constant, and it's more or less the same in the forecast for performance in the plan for next year. These are all these costs of the head office of the shared services, catering to all the segments which are not allocated to them. So the whole management board and the central functions, and we assume a stable level of costs here of this area. Now, to quote the classic, there's this hydra that's consuming the profits. Yes, we're not allocating management costs and central HR and central services. Yes, indeed, this is what I'm talking about. So, to what extent is the fire-resistant glass production relevant and important in the aluminium system segment? And what kind of percentage are we talking about in terms of the share of the sales in this segment? And what are the plans for the coming year or two of development? Well, this segment indeed has achieved a level over the last couple of months. In the third quarter, it achieved a satisfactory level. We had a number of technical challenges which were solved, and year on year, we can say that it will be nearly 50% increase in just in Glasprof, which deals with the production of glass. And we will assume the parameters, so this will achieve full capacity. We were talking about 30 million zlotys in revenue, as far as I remember. So we have to say that it's the first element of this chain, because this fire-resistant glass is actually sold together with the Aluprof offering through international companies, mainly in international sales. So this is a significant new product which enriches our offering, even though the revenues from the sales are not that significant. Maybe we're talking about several millions in EBITDA of positive revenue this year, and we are also talking about around 6 million EBITDA in the budget. Another question is also about in exclusions between groups, because from the simple sum of revenues from sales, this is 662 million difference compared to the sales disclosed to the consolidated sales. So how does this the investor quite rightly noted that this is exclusion between groups, so this is sales from mainly EPS, right? Sales from EPS to the ASS and from the sun protection system segment, and a slight amount of 100 million zlotys, which will be sold by the sun protection system segment to the ASS. Because through this sun protection segment, this will be sold to some export segments through the ASS companies. So this is an internal exclusion, so to speak. Now, another question, more, let's say, broad-ranging. How does the company intend to compete against aluminum from Turkey or even Russia? Is it still a relevant problem? What is the threat to the fulfillment of the forecasts, or even in terms of some strategic decisions, given the presence, the influx of raw material from those areas? Well, maybe it's not the company that should be thinking about it, but it's Europe that should be considering this problem. It is a problem of the whole of Europe, how it is going to cope with the influx of Turkish or Chinese aluminium. And we, as I said, we are on this map of aluminium small enough to be able to cope and fight on the markets where our products and their quality still stand and defend themselves and are higher than the imported products that keep flowing in. So it's a global question, really, about the whole policy in this respect, and not necessarily about the company so much. Or so it seems to me. Another question about the sun protection system segment. I have recalled this slide. So 1,144,000,000 zlotys of revenue. This is the assumption, and 194 million zlotys in EBITDA. So I'm assuming that Selt will do some 350 million, and where does the rest of the revenues and EBITDA come from? Well, from the Aluprof Opole plant. That's where it comes from. As we can see, the Aluprof plant in Opole achieved in 2024, or it tends to achieve because the year has not ended yet, 744 million zlotys in revenues from sales and 128 million in EBITDA. So it is that plant which will supplement, well, it will actually constitute the largest share, but it will supplement the amounts earned by Selt in terms of the sun protection system segment. EPS in Q4 2024 had a decrease in volume year on year, whilst in the previous quarters the volumes had a positive dynamism, positive sales dynamics, and the company signaled that it was going for the highest possible use of production capacities. But over the last weeks, hasn't the strategy changed? Maybe the market is weak enough to make it more profitable to reduce production rather than perhaps sell at all costs. Well, we're not selling at all costs, and you can see this when you look at the profitability, which you can see that obviously is lower than we could have expected, but please don't fear. We know how to do this job, and this is our shop, and we know what to do in terms of reducing capacities or not reducing them, and about the prices we are selling at. So this is obviously our work, which we have been doing for many, many years, and we've had worse situations in the market, and it's no surprise this situation today. We're coping, but I'm not going to let you in on the behind the scenes, but definitely we are coping in the most efficient way for the result, for the end result we want to achieve. Next question. A request for more details on investments in energy efficiency of the segment. Well, these are investments which have been appearing. Well, they are in part made in each of the segments, but around 12 million or so of zlotys we will allocate to this. And this is about tying in already built PV installations plus upgrades to a certain part of our hinterland, of our production, of our furnaces, and plus some smaller, numerous projects related to replacement of smaller devices or some residual lighting to be replaced with more efficient ones. So up to 12 or so million of zlotys estimated for next year. Thank you. The decrease in profitability in ASS, from 22 to 19.4, just to remind you from the side. Isn't it too conservative? Especially if we're talking about further improvement in profitability on fire-resistant glass. Well, it's not overly conservative. Please note that the profitability at the level of 20% is really for this segment. And by the way, EBITDA, this is a record result of this segment, and this is a very high level. And please note that, in fact, in 2024, the macro context really supported us. So 2,200, this was the aluminium that supported us, $400 per ton. This was the billet premium. And today it's much different for Aluprof. So with these macro assumptions that we presented earlier, we are not expecting this support from that side we had earlier. So aluminium is, to put it briefly, in a nutshell, it's more expensive than it was at the start of the year. So this assumption seems ambitious to us, especially with an increase in revenue by 6%. So please bear in mind that this fire-rated glass is a really cool product that supplements the portfolio, but we are talking about revenues from sales at the level of 20-something million zlotys in the context of 1,800 million of the whole segment. Right, the improvement in EBITDA, which we are assuming in 2025, is it distributed proportionally between the quarters, or does it happen starting from a specific quarter of the year? Well, indeed, the trend will be reversed compared to that in 2024. In 2024, nearly 50 million better was the first half of the year, and the second half was worse. And we're assuming, in line with the comments, that the start of the year is still exceptionally difficult and uncertain, but we are expecting an improvement in the second half of the year, and the second half of the year will be more or less 40 million better compared to the first one in the first one in 2025. So the trend will be reversed according to our assumptions. Where does the strong improvement in revenue of Selt come from in 2025 and the high increase in EBITDA? Well, hard work, that's where it comes from. Just in a nutshell, you see, it's hard to say where it comes from. Well, we acquired a company that was managed well by a private individual, by a single individual, and we entered as a group. And we're implementing our tools, and we're expanding the sales composition. Well, this is why we acquired that company, to sell more and to earn more. Well, it's natural, right? And where does it come from? Well, it's hard to say exactly which products we are expecting to sell more and to which markets. Well, because the competition would have a chance to prepare for that then. So maybe let's not talk about products and about specific markets. Maybe, we were talking from the very start about synergies, and we are simply implementing these synergies. We'll doing these exercises in purchases and practicing it and talking to suppliers, and more optimal use of logistics and more optimal use of the plants we have in Opole. And as the President said, we have a couple of them. Two, I would even say above all, synergies in the commercial area. So we have sales teams operating on a cinema market in Poland and in foreign markets. And on top of that, we have intensive launching of the Aluprof foreign companies that has already been mentioned today. This has consolidation effects to make sure that apart from Aluprof Opole, they also sell Selt products. These are high synergies to be made use of, and you see the effects in the planned budget. Okay, is that the end of your answer? Yeah. What level of volume of extruded product segment was allocated to the group's own needs in 2024? And how will this volume be distributed in 2025? Broken down into new ASS and new new flexible packaging segment. So we would sell a quarter, and we will be selling around 30%, and this is Selt, actually. Please note that it was not sold by us entirely for the whole year, right? So as the gentleman mentioned, we would be providing Selt with aluminium. This is around 4,000 tons a year, and in total this will be around 34% of the EPS volume, 4% of which is Selt and around 30 is Aluprof. And this will be a slight increase in year on year, resulting from the larger scale of activity and from the minimization of purchases, and also to Opole. Right? Yes. So I'm not sure at this point what amount in Opole, around 6,000 tons. This is more or less the order of magnitude, but incrementally. This will be around a change by around 4,000 tons year on year. What will be the depreciation presented in the new ASS, the annual depreciation, and in the new sun protection system segment? What will the depreciation be? Well, a question about packaging a bit now. What kind of EBITDA margin was generated by BOPP film sales in 2024, and what are the expectations for 2025? So for some time now, we have not been presenting the results in a breakdown into these two segments, so we'd like to leave it be in this layout. But they were stable levels, which can be repeated, as the whole segment. Is it likely that some acquisition deal will be closed in 2025? And what directions are currently being looked at by the company most strongly? Well, I believe that you can understand that we don't really want to, nor can we answer this question, because we don't anticipate the strategy. And, well, gentlemen are silent about such things, right? And, yes, investments of 80 million in the new sun protection system segment appeared in the presentation, but this is, in no part is it development capex. So could you comment on this in a word? As it has been mentioned, we have a couple of replacement investments here, resulting from the fact that over the last couple of years, these replacement investments have been at a very low level. And so simply, we have some arrears here, we have some backlog, and in terms of, this concerns some machines, some elements of the line which are older and sometimes date back to the 1990s or early noughties, and they need to be replaced now, and after this upgrade period we might have a period of lower capex again. But as I told you, in the longer term perspective, this is absolutely averaged and flattened, and these investments are below the level of depreciation in the segment. Does the company see any significant products which can supplement the current range in the sun protection system segment? Again, a question which is very detailed, and we don't really want to give you the behind the scenes here and explain all this. In part, we will be mentioning this in the strategy, but I can refer to motivation behind acquisition of Selt and what the president mentioned. Looking at the portfolio, the product portfolio of our part of Aluprof, the Opole part, that is shutter systems, and the Selt portfolio, product portfolio, which you can find on the website of Selt, we have a truly comprehensive offering of sun protection systems, and We have to place emphasis now on building, scaling up, and distribution, and we will definitely be supplementing this and improving this. Maybe that's not. Thank you. The fragmentation of competition in some protection systems market, can it be actually supportive of the acquisition plans of the group? Can it favor them? Yes, it can. Thank you. Please comment on the distribution of the overall mood for Selt after the 4 months of consolidation, where we see 82 million in revenue and a negative EBIT. So what is it like for the whole year, the situation of Selt? Well, we talked about this when discussing the results for Q3. This winter period, due to the specificity of the product, is clearly worse and noticeably worse. So Q4 is usually much worse than the remaining quarters. Well, that's what I can say. With a bit of 6+ million, EBITDA, 2 million of net loss, nearly in Q4. Does Kente Group plan to sponsor the Odra Opole football club? No, we're not intending to do this. How much depreciation in profit and loss had Selt in 2024, and what is its current debt level? Well, debt is minimum, and it's a dozen million zlotys or so in Q4. Depreciation was annually, I don't know, it's 24 million zlotys. So in which areas does the group see possibilities for supporting the process of rebuilding our eastern neighbor in the scenario of potential end of the armed conflict? In which areas does the group see possibilities of supporting the process of rebuilding our eastern neighbor, it's Ukraine we're talking about, in a scenario of potential ending of the armed conflict? Well, in all the areas we're active in, especially in construction. Now, does the company see the possibility of opening its representation offices, distribution companies for the sun protection system segment in Arabic countries? Well, we're not ruling it out. In 2025, the group segments, are they planning any increases in production capacities? No, these production capacities, we built them in the years 2023, 2024, both in EPS and in ASS, and this is around 25% of increase in production capacities. Let me remind you, we have an optimization project which will still be able to allow us to release additional capacities. And Selt, as a company acquired, as you have already mentioned, had some free production capacities, and basically these are some of the synergies we're making use of. So investments in capacities, generally no. Thank you. In which foreign markets do we see the biggest opportunities for dynamic growth in sales of aluminum systems in the next year or two? So let me repeat. Please understand that we're not going to go into the behind the scenes, the day-to-day business. background, because these are just day-to-day priorities, which determine our competitiveness, day-to-day activities and priorities that determine our competitiveness. We are definitely looking at the markets where we see potential, and which ones they are. Well, you can see how large the economies are and what the economic situation is, and that's how we are looking at this too. So I believe that this is the last question, which has not been answered, or which is not answered by the presentation. Some questions I have not read them because the answers to them, you can find them in the presentation or in the communication. So basically on the release. So the recording of the transmission, you will find it as usual after a couple of days in on the website of the company in the forecasts tab. And I would like to thank all those present, those attending, those listening, those watching the presentation. And I would like to thank the presenters, the speakers for the answers. Thank you. The President wanted to say something. I wanted to thank you for participation, and have a great holiday. All the best in 2025, and see you next year. So thank you.